About 5 years ago, I attended a law enforcement symposium here in Monterey, focusing on human trafficking. Sat in the back of the room, was listening to the officers from the different specialty units across California share best practices and also articulate some of the case studies and things that they were observing and learning from the field. While I was sitting in the back of the room, I noticed there were a series of conversations that started to pop up around the room. Based off of the unique fact pattern of one of the cases, it became evident that there were 6 different task forces all working the same case over a 5-year period. It was right there when I found the topic for my thesis. Human trafficking is a relatively new legal concept. It only became a federal felony in the year 2000, and it wasn't until 2008 when California made it a felony. The working definition that I usually use in my trainings and with my colleagues is, trafficking is the business of inducing a person to perform labor or engage in commercial sex through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. Trafficking is the deprivation of someone's liberty. It's denying them that freedom of movement. It's coercing them or forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. It's very different from smuggling. Smuggling is a volitional agreement between the individual that wants to cross an international border and that trafficker that will take them across the border. And once they cross that border, that individual is free to go. And that is a federal crime, but it's very different from trafficking. There is a lot about human trafficking that we do not understand. We do not fully understand the scope and the nature of the crime. We don't fully understand how the bad actors, both transnational criminal organizations as well as criminal street gangs, fully exploit trafficking to further their criminal activity. The National Human Trafficking Resource Center runs and operates a toll-free tip line. They've collected this data going back to about 2007. Every year since 2007, California has been the state that has originated the most tips. Using that data and the data that I obtained from the California Department of Justice, I've been able to articulate and illustrate the pervasiveness of trafficking across California, both over geographic space and time, but then also the density and the locations of where we are here in California seeing the most cases. Human trafficking's only been a felony in California for about 14 years. It's only given us a couple opportunities to really dig deep into the data and the conviction rates, the best practices, to learn from what our specialty units are doing in the field, what we can improve upon, and how we can better hold traffickers accountable. The U.S. Department of Justice funds and helps operate what they call the Enhanced Collaborative Model Task Forces. These task forces are spread across the United States, and what they do is they pair a victim service organization with a law enforcement agency. These two partners come together to work in a collaborative environment. That's the goal. When law enforcement encounters a survivor or a victim of crime, the idea is that they come with services in hand. Collaboration is the key. Collaboration is incredibly difficult, especially when you are taking law enforcement and non-law enforcement and expecting them to work together. Collaboration requires trust. There are a number of different hurdles when it comes to building trust between civilian and law enforcement partners. That trust is crucial to building successful cases, identifying potential victims, finding that best outcome, both in the prosecution of the case, but also the best outcome for that survivor. These concerns can range from how to share confidential or private information, both from the law enforcement team, but also from the survivor. It can come down to cultural sensitivities. It could also include things like past interactions that the victims had with law enforcement. These are all crucial things that the partnership must come together to discuss, to work through, and understand why the victim may seem reluctant to work with law enforcement. It might actually be a part of their victimization. It was in my studies where I was exposed to social identity theory. It really is a theory about how individuals interpret and live their own reality. What are the factors in how each one of us interacts with each other? How do we build trust with partners? How do we better understand the people that we work with? I saw this as a potential solution on how to get some of these multidisciplinary task forces to better collaborate. There are 3 different terms that are often used as synonyms for collaboration, and they're not. There's coordination, there's cooperation, and there's collaboration. Coordination is 2 groups working together to make sure that they're not duplicating efforts. Cooperation requires 2 different groups to work together, and there may be some synergy that the 2 groups can find. But collaboration, if 2 groups can truly reach a collaborative state, they are coming together, taking each one of their unique assets and resources and combining them to achieve goals that neither one of them could have achieved on their own. Now, over the last 14 years, California's anti-trafficking footprint has expanded dramatically. A few years ago, we had 7, 8, maybe 9 task forces in all the major cities that you would expect: Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Orange County. But recently, a lot of other local jurisdictions, both counties and cities, have decided to enhance their local response by adding additional collaborative task forces. At last count, I was able to identify about 32 specialized units across California. While California has expanded its response footprint, the information sharing of these specialty units really hasn't kept pace. There's no formalized network. There's no centralized clearinghouse or backbone for these task forces to share information or operational case information. That lack of coordinated effort is what I witnessed at the symposium. Law enforcement and federal agencies have an existing information network. The fusion centers. One of the things that we learned after the attacks of September 11th was our failure to effectively share information. I think we still see that in other areas. I think trafficking is one of them. California has 5 regional fusion centers and 1 statewide assessment center. I think this information network, this backbone that's already in place, could be leveraged to help those specialty units better share information, better connect the dots of cases, better identify victims. As we enter the 3rd decade of countering trafficking, both domestically and internationally, I think some of the biggest gains that we're going to find is going to be in this collaborative environment. There is so much information that we can learn that if we can trust each other, if we can better understand the experiences of our partners, that we'll be able to glean so much more valuable operational information. That will allow us to better design our victim response systems, our legal systems, to hold the traffickers more accountable. Thank you.